Very good.
What else do you want to know?
Anyone else have any questions for Marlon? I guess that's it. I imagine as time goes on, we'll get the opportunity to learn a little bit more about you. What about Lene?
Hi, I'm Lene Millett. I grew up in Heber Valley in Midway. And after my husband and I graduated from BYU, we lived in the Bay Area for a little while. I lived in Southern California for a little while. I served an LDS mission there in the Los Angeles area. And we lived in the Bay Area for a couple years and then moved back to Utah. So I've lived in Orem for the last 33 years. 4 kids. I worked for 10 years before I had my kids, and now I'm a stay-at-home mom. So I do a lot with PTA and school community councils, and I helped served on a few commissions for Orem City. I really enjoy being involved with the city and knowing what's going on, so I'm anxious to be on this commission. This will be fun.
Very good. Very good. We'll go on to our next item here, the 12th West, 4th South Roundabout update. You got something there for us, Brady?
Is that 12th West? Isn't that 12th South and 4th?
Yeah, it's 12th South and 4th West. There, typo
Man,
on that.
I read it wrong. I knew it was better.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen what I have of this here. Can everybody see this okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So just wanted to give a little update on this. Last time when we met in December, we brought up this concept here of like the dual lane here, and that's what you as a commission kind of approved to move forward, and we ended up taking it to the city council, got their approval as well with this layout. But just really wanted to, currently you see these couple shaded areas here with this. This is just where we got to get right away now in order to get the project kind of built, and so that's really where we're at in the process right now of the roundabout here, is just acquiring that right away with that. So I mean that's really it. Just wanted to give a little bit of update. Anybody have any questions with it?
So if I understood correctly, the city already purchased the home on the northeast corner.
Correct.
And on the northwest corner, isn't that the woman that's adamant that she won't give up land and et cetera? Are we encroaching on her?
I believe that to the northwest there is UVU property.
Okay, so they're south of her property.
Yeah, hers is kind of up here. This up through here is hers.
Okay.
There. Yeah. Yep. So it's really the two properties will be the church down here on the southwest, and then the northwest, and anything else there will be UVU that we'll be working with.
Where are they going to move the ingress to the church parking lot?
We're actually, I actually been speaking with the church representative for that, and that access point to the roundabout will be removed. They won't have that direct access to the roundabout. They'll just use their access onto 12th South or onto 4th West.
Okay.
Yeah, that's this access right here.
Right. I drive through that roundabout several times a week, so familiar with it.
Do we have a timeline yet? Do we have a goal of when this will begin?
The construction will likely take place next summer. With the fact that we haven't secured all of the right-of-way, and knowing that we want to be sensitive to UVU and school, both UVU and Lakeview Elementary, we want to make sure that we want to do this construction during the summertime. So it'll likely happen next summer. Once we get the right-of-way secured from the church, we'll also be working with UVU to make sure we have all the right documents there for that right-of-way, and then we'll advertise with the anticipation that we'll do the actual construction next year, likely probably start in June and try and have that completed by August. We'll also be doing a some roadway work on 12 South through that area to the west. We're going to be doing we have an asphalt overlay project that needs to happen, but we'll also build up that roadway section so it can support all of those UVX buses that use that route.
Are they going to, Sam, are you going to close on the very west end of 12th South there, when you get down to the UVX bus area? You can make a right and go over onto the campus drive and turn left to get down to UVU. But if you go straight, all it does is loop you right back up to the same point.
Mm-hmm.
And several cars wind up going straight there, and then I watch them make a turn, and then they try and make a U-turn on campus there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that there's any reason to allow cars to go down there. They should probably make a right-hand turn there and get over onto campus on that connector.
Yeah, I want to say part of that concern and issue we have is that, yeah, initially we wanted to eliminate that, but there is that access point, but I guess it's just a right in, right out for that development. And I guess we wanted, so yeah, I guess when we go to do our roadway work in there, we'll evaluate whether or not we need to have that hook little, I guess it's kind of a hook road in there, or if we want to go ahead and dead end that. I mean, I think we have to do that.
I'm just going to bring this over.
Yeah, perfect.
Marlon, I'm assuming you're talking about this right here? Yeah.
Yeah, cars go down to that hook, and then they try and make a U-turn, or, a quick U-turn just where your pointer just
Doing
moved.
that, right? Yeah.
And it causes trouble, whereas that connector 100 feet to the east, maybe 200 feet right there, is much more convenient. And anyway, I hate to derail what we're talking about, but it's right close to that roundabout, and I see people do dangerous things there frequently.
Yeah, I've actually I've watched a guy standing there shortly after we had built that, and they just continued to go west down the wrong way and go into the roundabout. It was quite scary. But yeah, we can look into that when we go and do the rest of that project as we head further west on 12 South, for sure. Okay. Upcoming projects. I don't know if you had a slide for this or not, Brady, but we do have our 2021 roadway project that's going to be happening. I'm trying to think if there's really anything too major with that project. I think the biggest one, as far as transportation goes, it's going to be new, is we will continue our bike lanes down 2000 South, down to the roundabout there, coming from Main Street down to the west there to that roundabout by Nielsen's Grove. That's really probably the only big transportation type project where something new is going to happen on Palisade Drive. This year we will finish that project and put in some speed tables all along that area, remove those speed bumps and put in those raised concrete speed tables that are going to be similar to what we have in front of the rec center, only in that I think we're going to raise these to have to be a little taller than what's in front of the rec center, as well as because of the way they're configured with ADA and whatnot, we'll actually have some curb medians in there so people won't be able to kind of go around them and put the one side of your car into the curb and gutter, which I'm not saying any of us do that, but I know that I do it when I can, if there isn't a car park there. So yeah, we will be doing something like that along Palisade Drive. I don't think we really have too much going on this year for transportation. We are going to be doing some work we do have a transportation or a traffic improvement project that was approved a few years, it was a few years ago, and then we decided to break it up because the cost was so much. And the components that are going to be done now will be extending the median on Center Street from State Street back through to the first entrance into the Smiths, as well as doing some right turn pocket work and radius up at 8th East and 8th North. So those are some of the things that we have coming up this year. Design-wise, which kind of segues into our next item, the 8th East and 4th North signal intersection. We've got two areas that are of priority, both with volumes and counts that we have, as well as by way of, I wouldn't necessarily say it's complaints, but there are comments that we would like to see some signals at certain areas. One of them is 4th West and 4th South, and the other is up here at 8th East and 4th North. And I'll give Brady some time to kind of discuss what he found when he did a small little micro analysis. And I say micro not being it was a small analysis, it's just that when like now we're going through the process of our transportation master plan, and that's more of a macro analysis, looking at what we have for areas of growth, where are we projecting the growth, and then through that the master plan kind of will identify some areas of emphasis, meaning, hey, you might need to look at some of these corridors or some of these intersections, do more of a micro analysis, meaning just kind of drill in and actually get some accurate counts, and look at other signals and other areas, and actually and see if those numbers meet the warrants, so that you can put in those different types of improvement. But in this one, Brady did look at existing conditions and then ran a few scenarios, leaving it a four-way stop, putting a signal here in coordination, and/or then putting in a signal and having it run free. And I can let Brady kind of explain some of those options to you.
Yeah, so like Sam mentioned, I mean, so what we did here initially is we collected some new counts with those, and it was really just during the PM peak that we looked at for those. But based off those counts, we did kind of look at signal warrants to see if, based off of those counts, if they did meet warrants. It's one of the processes going through, obviously putting in a signal. MUTCD has 8 warrants, in order to warrant to put in a signal. One of those being like a peak hour analysis. So we did look at that, and when we did look at it, it didn't meet the warrant for the peak hour warrant. Typically, warrant 1 is an 8-hour warrant, so they give volumes in MUTCD kind of requirement thresholds for the major movements, which would be on 800 East, and then the minor movements, which would be 400 North for this intersection. So they give the thresholds and for those requirements to see if it meets. So there's an 8-hour one, so it had to be consecutive 8 hours to meet certain thresholds. One's a 4-hour one. So consecutive 4 hours meeting thresholds, and then the other one's the peak hour one. So during the peak hour, if meets those thresholds, could look at putting in a signal. So that's what we did initially, and it didn't meet those warrants. I think there is a little bit of caveat still, because we did collect those last year, kind of COVID, and we're still seeing maybe 10% less with some of those volumes. With that, so there is that, but like Sam said, we ran a few scenarios here just to kind of get an idea, what impacts putting a signal there can have at the adjacent signalized intersection, so 800 North as well as Center Street, just to kind of get a bigger picture of it. Sometimes signals aren't the best solutions. They have introduce more crashes, like rear end crashes, concerning of red light running and all that kind of stuff. So we just kind of wanted to kind of look at that. But really, ultimately, we got heavy movements on 800 East, north and southbound. And, just really with the analysis, it showed that the intersection is currently operating at a good level service B, really there. Adding a signal there and kind of coordinating it with 800 North, it does help traffic northbound and southbound, but it does increase delay to the people on 400 North by about 4 times the amount there. So that's if you're putting the signal in coordination. If you're running it free, which is just kind of based off of detection, if somebody pulls up to the signal, it's going to put a call into the signal and allow it to change, kind of almost operating as a four-way stop, but with the signal. That does help a little bit. So on the east-west, on 400 north, people aren't seeing so much delay there, waiting. But really, just to kind of summarize, the results show that the intersection isn't extremely bad. We'd have to likely acquire right away because we'd want to have left turn, at least turn pocket there for east and west movements there on 400 north to get them out of the through and rights, and that would require right away purchasing and all that kind of stuff. So right now, with the not meeting warrants and analysis in terms of delay and level service not showing too significant, we're going to look at other locations in the city and kind of do the similar analysis to see kind of where they kind of match up with it, and kind of help prioritize, future signal locations and how we move forward in determining, where we start with those based on the warrants with MUTCD, as well as some of these metrics in terms of queuing, level service, and delay. So it's a lot of information, and don't know if I explained it extremely well. Don't want to get too technical. We can if we need to, but does anybody have any questions?
What's the time frame you're thinking to get that? Is that a this year project?
No, right now it's a no project. Right now is what we're thinking. We want to look at some other locations that we think could actually be a little bit worse and have a little bit more volumes, and that would likely start at those locations. And that's what I'm saying. We want to kind of do analysis on those as well as counts, and see where that starts. I mean, really, it doesn't meet warrants it doesn't warrant a signal yet, and that's really the first step that we'd want to see before we actually go in and install a signal.
I have two questions real fast. How does like stuff filter up just for you to spend time, Brady, on doing an analysis like this?
Sorry, Jeff, what is it? What was that again?
I'm saying how do issues or potential issues filter up to your priority list to spend the time to do an analysis like this?
I think it just depends. It just varies on the type. Like Sam said, if we have, we know that this is a future signal location, and we do get inquiries about it. People asking questions about a signal here, and so it puts it on our radar and make sure that we're, evaluating it, looking at it, and aware of where it kind of sits in terms of maybe thresholds of putting in a signal. So it's really just the feedback that we get from citizens and others, even from city council members or planning commission and all those type of things. So we're aware of what people are seeing out there.
So like Jeff, in this one, Jeff Whitlock, I know there's two Jeffs on the line here, but when we looked at this signal, I just kind of had you guys might be able to drive through this in the evening and look at it and be like, there's a lot of queuing here, there's a lot of delay, should we put in a signal? And that's where we go ahead and take that step. And you guys are afforded the opportunity when you guys are out and about in the PM peak, because for the PM peak, you guys are out traveling around in the city trying to go from here to there, where Brady and I are trying to get out of here and go home, right? So you guys are probably going to see things that we don't. And that's when you guys can say, hey, can you look at this intersection? This one is really kind of an interesting one because the cycle length at 8th North and 8th East is not the same cycle length at Center Street and 8th East, meaning the signals run, there's more green time at one versus the other. So if we were to coordinate this, it actually creates a unique problem in that if we had a signal here, it would be timed with the 8th North and 8th East signal, but because Center Street is different, we would actually create the same amount of delay northbound, which if we put in the signal and everyone thinks it's going to be fixed, if we don't go outside of the box and fix those areas too, we're really not going to be doing anything but making the problem worse or seem like we didn't do anything at all. And I think in Brady's analysis, it showed that every fourth cycle would actually work out pretty well with timing, and where the north and south would be able to cruise through. There wouldn't be too much queuing, but the other three times that signal northbound would actually be the same as it was with the four-way stop. So maybe, go ahead.
I was just going to say, essentially, if you're coming from Center Street going through, going northbound, by the time you'd get to 400 North, you'd what Sam was saying, you'd be arriving on red, so you'd actually be stopped and having to wait there. Where coordinated systems, the point of those is to really arrive on a green. So as you're getting to the signal and you're close to there, that it's green and you can continue to progress through there. So that's what we're seeing with these different cycle links that Sam's mentioned. We get a lot more arrivals on red for northbound. So it doesn't exactly just fix the problem northbound, and then, like I mentioned, it creates more excessive delay for the side streets, the east and west legs.
So can I make a comment about that?
You bet.
When you're on a street, like I have to exit onto 1600 North to get out of my neighborhood. And sometimes it's quite difficult because they're trying to keep traffic going up 8th East around to 1600 North. And if it never stops, then I have a hard time getting out of my neighborhood. So sometimes a break is a little beneficial since they are residential streets. But I don't understand, and I think you do that because I know I talked to Keith about it years ago, and it seemed like they do stop them somewhere. Is that what you're trying to do, is to coordinate like one stop with the main 8th North, 8th East boundary, or do you have certain points you want to go so far before they have to stop? What's your guidelines for that? Or do you just want to keep them moving all the time?
Yeah, I don't really have any guidelines with that, Lene. It's typically probably looking at, keeping the traffic moving and flowing, with that. I think it could be, I think it's an interesting point to bring up, about having some breaks and all that kind of stuff, with residents, having the opportunity to get out and those type of things. It's probably something that's overlooked. Really, or not brought up enough maybe to consider. But yeah, I would say the priority is kind of moving traffic, because that's where we get the complaints anyway, is at the intersections or signals or something needs to be done. I'm waiting here too long, or through 2 cycles or 3 cycles or whatever. So yeah, there's really nothing in terms of limits or anything like that. For example, on 800 North, UDOT's going to have that coordinated all the way from the east to the west as far as it goes, trying to get traffic flowing and moving through there and progressed. That's the purpose of kind of a coordinated system through there. So the priority is moving vehicles in that sense.
Okay, great, thanks. It's just a little hard for my teenagers. I don't have a problem getting out onto 1600, but when an inexperienced driver, they have to learn. It's a little trickier.
Is there any other questions with that? I think the next one that we're going to be looking at, kind of doing something similar, is at 4th West and 4th South here at this 4-way stop, doing a similar analysis and kind of seeing what those results and how they compare to 800 East and 400 North.
So can I ask, is that where are they still considering the water tank? Is that the area, or for that?
I think that was, yeah, it was right here.
Is that gonna this at all, or?
I think that's off the table. Sam can probably better.
What's that?
This is actually off the table now for the water tank.
Actually, no. It actually, we are looking at that piece there as well. We've kind of narrowed it down to 2 spots. One of them is this property, and then the other would be possibly north of the baseball field. So yeah, we're just kind of weighing options. There's a lot of moving parts with this. I know Jeff had a chance to look at the spreadsheet looking at different options. It makes sense to have the tank here from an operations and engineering standpoint, as far as there's master plan to be a 20-inch water main in 4th South that will go from 8th West to 4th East, and that kind of helps with the pump and the well and the tank to be able to essentially energize this central zone and get water out. So to have the tank and the pump and the well close to where we need to be for our transmission line makes a lot of sense. But we just have to make sure all the costs are all in line with what we need. So there's pump costs, there's piping costs, both for the pressure lines as well as the drain line and things like that. So yeah, we are looking at this area. And then if we were to move forward with this, Mr. Farley is wanting to sell off 4.2 of the 5.7 acres, and that would give us part of that 4.2 is this area up there at that northeast part of his property, which really affords us a few more opportunities to look at some different types of intersection improvements. Because if we own that corner, we could actually look to put in a roundabout at this area, because there's a very large power pole on the northwest corner, or excuse me, the northeast corner of that intersection, which is going to make it difficult to try and put a mast arm and things like that in there. But we would just have to look at the roundabout, and then to Brady's point, I mean, you have a school there, you have a school zone, you have a roundabout. It kind of makes things a little tricky. But yeah, we'll look at it and see what we can do at this intersection. But yeah, to Lene's point, we are looking at putting a tank in this area.
Well, and didn't they, if you put the tank, would you put a city park on top? So would that increase traffic, or how would that affect?
It just kind of depends. It depends on the direction that's given. I think in this area, and that's one of the components to the cost, is just looking at, if this is our property, whereas, and it's not improved property now, we could likely build the tank and come back at a later date and actually put some sort of surface improvement on it. We could use park impact fee money, since this is a new park, to kind of help fund it. Likely we would make it more of a passive park. I don't think we would put any sort of features on it like pickleball or a baseball field or whatever on there. But if there's enough public clamor and they want some sort of use, then we could go ahead and put that there. But it just comes with a cost of having to put the amenity on there. Then you're adding a restroom. Then you're adding area for parking. So I mean, it's if you give me the direction, hey, I can go ahead and solve it and build it, whatever we want. But there's a few more folks involved with what needs to go there. So for me, I'm just kind of anxiously waiting for someone to say, yes, this is what we want, and move forward. And yeah, we'll start moving and get it going. I mean, but I think a lot of people fail to realize or fail to understand. I mean, this is going to be a 2-year project, so it's going to take some time. It won't be, okay, this is where the tank's going to go, and in 3 months it's going to be done. It's going to be a long time. And even at that, if it was in the park, it's probably going to take 2 to 2.5 years by the time you have somewhat of a surface restoration and it's back to where it was before. So yeah, this is going to be a little bit different. I mean, I think we've done a pretty good job of doing some bigger projects when we get them done in a construction season. But this guy's going to take a long time. But I mean, similar to the fitness center and the library hall. But yeah, this is going to be a really big project for us.
Great, thanks. Thanks.
Any other questions on those things? I guess we have a couple more items. One, just briefly touch on the item 6 here, the transportation infrastructure bill. I don't know if many of you paid attention to that, but the state is going to be bonding, and there's going to be some money available. And Orem had 2 projects that were identified in that transportation infrastructure bill. One of them being 16th North, which is nice to know because we had went through the process of a jurisdictional transfer in the hopes of that 16th North corridor being widened sooner than later, and it seemed to kind of slow down. But then with this bond and what the state's going to do, that could likely be completed here within 5 years. I would think it's going to be at least an environmental process of probably 2 years, maybe. I mean, and it could be done in 3 years. It just kind of depends on what comes out of the environmental and things like that. So there's that project, as well as Geneva Road, which is going to be widened to a 5-lane section from University Parkway to 18th South, which is just a little bit south of the Temple site. And that's generally where we would have our Lakeview Parkway tie-in. So with that one coming online and similar, that they'll be having to get that money and then hiring a consultant to do their EIS and things like that, I think the city will be moving forward. I know we will, at least here in the engineering division, be submitting to MAG our Lakeview Parkway project to get some funding so we can start to procure the right-of-way and get some design drawings done. We a few years ago, we did a pre-environmental, kind of established a corridor where we thought it would best fit, trying to avoid wetlands and things like that. So now we would go forward and probably do more of a full-blown environmental assessment, look at the area, and then develop construction drawings and try to have something ready if need be sooner than later. I don't know if we can accelerate that through the MAG tip process or not, but yeah, as those two projects kind of gain legs, and we'll know a little bit more here maybe May or June when that funding's going to come through, and then what UDOT plans to do, and then we'll try and plan accordingly to at least have that intersection built. And maybe, I know we intended for Lakeview Parkway just to build 2 of the 4-lane facility, but maybe we would try and go the full width. And a lot of that depends on Provo as well. Provo is very anxious to build their component of Lakeview Parkway. They already are looking to build a signal at 2000 South and Geneva Road, and then also continue 2000 South out to where Lakeview Parkway is. So that southwest area is starting to gain some traction and look to be built out here sooner than later. If there's any questions about that, there is one item of business that we need to probably do, is that we as a commission need to select a member as a chairperson. That chairperson, as I'm looking here in our city code, the chairperson shall conduct all meetings and shall serve for 1 year. Elections for chairperson shall be held annually. A chairperson may serve consecutive terms. The commission shall meet at least monthly and may meet more often at the discretion of the chairperson. So essentially, what we need to do is establish a chairperson. So that way it's not myself or Brady. So we can have a chair kind of run the show. So I kind of, I guess, leaving it to you. If you guys, I don't know how you guys want to do that. If you'd like to do somewhat of a ballot or a nominee, you want to send us an email. Do you want to do a secret ballot? Do you want to be, I don't care. But we would like to at least have the selection of a chairperson. I don't know if you want to select the people that have been here the longest, or that matters, or whatever you guys would like to do, but we do need to have some sort of a process to selecting a chair.
It looks like Bernie didn't like the thought of doing the longest person here.
Yeah, he all of a sudden, he didn't make any eye contact. I saw him.
We have Carl and Russ too.
Yeah, we do have Carl Gadd and Russ Burhoff. So.
And Carl is
They're
actually
not
the
here.
senior person.
Say that again.
Carl's actually the most senior person, as far
Right.
as
And he's not here to say no, so
Exactly.
you guys could all nominate him.
Voluntold. So there's, it looks like there's 5 of us on the meeting now, and then there's 2 other members, so there's a total of 7?
Yep.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I mean, does anybody really want to do it? I don't see anyone like clamoring to do it, but I mean, I could do it if nobody else wants to. But I don't know
That's
if
part of the process too. If someone just wants to volunteer, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to say no.
I nominate you, Marlon.
I
Okay.
second that nomination.
There's a second.
Yeah, I get myself into trouble a lot of times when I open my mouth.
You're not the only one. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Yay.
Any opposed? Well, looky there. It's Marlon Coe, the new commissioner,
Okay.
or the chairperson and new commissioner. Very good. So the one thing I do, have you guys had a chance to review our city code to kind of understand your duties and responsibilities as commission members?
What's the reference on that? Do you know?
It's going to be in let's see, let's go.
229-2.
Yep, 229-2.
We can bring it up too. I can share if we'd like to
Yeah.
go over it.
Because that, I think, will give you guys a little bit of direction so you guys can understand your roles and responsibilities. So it's not just listening to Brady and myself, two engineering nerds, trying to explain transportation to you.
So that's very, very small for me. I know I'm getting old, but I can't even read that. So I have to read it to me.
I was going to say the same thing, Lene.
See
And
if
I
I can-
second that. Is there a link that we could email out to everyone too, just to have on hand?
That'd be great.
Absolutely. Is that still really small?
If Cheryl can put it in a minute.
Better.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
I can send a link.
Thanks, Cheryl. That'd be great. So can I ask something just while you're pulling that up? So I listened to the prior meetings, a few of them, and it actually had some projects that I don't know anything about. I'd like to, get up to speed on some of these things. What would be the best way to see maps or information about those different projects that you're working on that you guys have already talked about?
You could coordinate with us directly. We could. I think if you want to stop by the office, if you want to sit down and go over them, I think we could make time for that.
Okay.
Is there any kind of a SharePoint site or a document vault or something like that where we put, for example, the stuff that that Horrocks showed in December that Renee and myself and whoever the other new one is didn't have a chance to see. Is there a repository like that?
We don't have one, but we could easily share all that. We can go ahead and figure out a way to generate a shared folder on our Google Drive that's for Transportation Commission, and we can put all the previous commission things or something like that. Yeah, I think we could easily do something along that.
I mean, if it's a shared drive with access just for the commission, limited access, not necessarily secret, but also controlled.
Yeah.
Put the minutes up there and any presentations or anything that was shown during the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
That would be good.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So Becky, we see your microphone isn't working. You'd like to know what's going on with and then I got a ... It didn't print all
This
of
looks like what's happening with the sidewalk on West
There we go.
800 North along the field east of Timpanogos Hospital.
Right. So we got the MAG money for that. We have the match money. It's just a matter of us freeing up and making that project happen. So it's something we have allotted to us. We have the MAG money in the tip. We have our match money in our budget, and we just need to now coordinate with, I believe the hospital purchased that property. So it's just a matter of coordinating and getting some right of way or and being allowed to get in there and do those improvements.
So Sam, do we have contractors like preferred contractors that we can just go to, or would a project like that wind up on the street as a bid process?
We'd have to go through a bid process. It would be nice to have a pool, and I guess, I mean, in some cases like this, I know for our tank project, because of the value engineering, we're actually going to go through, we have the consultants selected for the tank, the pump house, and the well, and once we have 30% design drawings completed, we will, during that time, we will pre-qualify some contractors and have them help us with that project. In this small area, I mean, I guess we could go through some sort of a pool process, and even if, I guess if need be, if time was of the essence, we could look at the state's website to see if they have state contract prices per lineal foot of whatever. But it might be a little bit harder in this area because there's going to be some fill, and because the roadway is quite a bit higher than that field, it would be kind of hard just to randomly select one, even though it would be nice. But yeah, I wish we could. But the only time we actually direct select contractors that is if we can put in a signal and it's straightforward. There's not a lot of surface improvements. It's just a matter of standing up poles and mast arms and running the conduit underneath the roadway. We can do that because those things are on the state contract. But when it comes to the wet utilities like water, sewer, storm drain, we really can't. And where it's not straightforward like this service improvement, I don't think we could really direct select someone. And then just as a side note, our own purchasing policies, if we think the project is going to be over $25,000, we have to actually go out to a bid process and advertise it. If it's there's a few ranges below that where we can direct select someone up to 3,500 and informal quotes up to 10,000, and then up to 25, we can have 3 written quotes. But if it's over 25,000, we have to actually go out and get a bid.
Right.
So that answer your question? Okay.
So I noticed on the city code, it talks about review and make recommendations regarding, speeds, bike paths, bike lanes. What's the process for that? Is that something we say, hey, can we put this on the agenda? We go through Marlon now to ask him what's the typical process?
So are you just looking at like line items EF, or what are you looking at?
Yeah, just right there in the code.
So what usually happens, like in all of these items, the bike paths, the bike lanes, the trails, the mass transit, a lot of that, you guys will have the opportunity to look at that through our transportation master plan, because we address the bike paths, the lanes, the trails, all of that in there, and that's usually the time that we can go ahead and make those recommendations to the council, because that plan will go to the council for approval. So as we get that draft plan, you guys can look at it and make comments, see if it's reasonable, see if it doesn't make sense, and then go ahead and do that, because speaking to bike lanes and bike paths and things like that, even on our own plan, we will be modifying it and actually probably taking some off just because it's pretty easy to put a line on a piece of paper and say, hey, this is where we need to have a bike lane. Hey, that's great. Okay, now who's going to be the one to go tell them that they're not going to be able to park in front of their home? Because that's the hard part, is that it might make sense to have this grid network of bike lanes and paths, but if one, it's not funded to gather any more right-of-way to build that, and two, we're not going to do it because we don't want to take away parking, then maybe we shouldn't have it there. Now, it does make sense though if we're planning and if it's on the MAG plan, like 8th East is planned to go to 5 lanes. Well, then part of the plan, it would make sense then, is like as if, you know, if and when 8th East is widened to 5 lanes, then it needs to have a bike facility on there. Or maybe it's a metric where we look at as, you know, is there going to be enough use and or potential use? Because I know in speaking with Russ earlier when he was looking to come on the commission, he didn't understand why, or he felt like maybe there's some areas where we shouldn't have them because he doesn't see anyone using them. So it's one of those debates as to understanding if is a kind of a field of dreams scenario. If we build it, they will come. But then if we do go through all that expense and we only have 100 riders or 200 riders, does it really make sense? Maybe to some, and then maybe not to others. So, you know, we look at, you know, review and make recommendations, and some of that's going to be if a developer or someone is making the recommendation to the city council, then they might ask us to review it and give them their opinion as well. So,
Sam, how frequent is that master plan review process?
we are now, it's usually about every 5 years. So master plan review processes are every 5 to 6 years because we have 7 years to utilize those impact fees. So we try and the impact fees are based off of the impact fee facility plan, which is then based off of the master plan. And if we've collected fees and we haven't utilized them, then we're supposed to refund those who have paid those fees. So that's why we try and reevaluate those plans to make sure that those plans were accurate, things haven't changed too much, and making sure that we've utilized those fees. Because there's a purpose for those, that we should be doing projects.
And did I understand we're coming up on the process here pretty quickly, or we're in the process?
We're just starting that process. Yeah, we just should be having somewhat of an update as to the progress of where it's at, and we'll be able to report that in this meeting as well as provide you with the document for you guys to review.
Okay.
And I would just add to some of that, maybe Lene, to your point, I think if you guys are seeing issues out there or hearing from others issues, I think that process of something that to be discussed on that would likely reach out to us, maybe me or Sam here at the city, also including Marlon maybe on that, but so we can just get those items added to the agenda. I think what we do want to avoid is kind of being respectful of everybody's time here so that we're not randomly bringing up these issues, but that we can get them on the agenda. And if items aren't on the agenda, then we'd likely have to just wait till the next month's meeting to kind of discuss it. But that's kind of how I would foresee that going moving forward. If there are concerns or something that we do need to discuss, that's just not us bringing up those items, that you guys as well bring them and we can get them added to the agenda accordingly so we can discuss them.
Yeah, because I could see if there's big items that need to happen. You guys notice that there's some sort of a deficiency. You bring it to our attention, we analyze it and study it and realize, yeah, there is. Now what can we do? You know, what are those potential solutions? How much is it going to cost? Do we have room in our existing budget? And if we don't, then it's one of those things that the following year, every January, we start our budget process, and if we need to ask for some funding and why, then we have all of that. We have all that research and data that supports it, and then some of these items turn into projects. Probably one of the bigger ones in here that is going to be kind of something that can be a little political is going to be, I want to say in here, I don't know where it's at, but it's, you know, recommendations on changing speed limits. We had an issue with a daycare that was wanting to relocate to a residential area, conditional use permit, and some things weren't in place. The city hadn't looked at we didn't have an accurate or an up-to-date speed study and then go ahead and then look at the intersections and sign them accordingly. And likely the reality is some of these corridors, maybe the speed limit should be brought up to 30 or 35. And that's something that you guys essentially can go ahead and evaluate, look at, and then if that's the case, then we can bring that to the city council, because that's part of that as well. Is the transportation master plan is going to identify some areas that probably should be evaluated, but then it's kind of essentially, it's not just up to Brady and I, it's up to you folks if you guys would support something like that. And that's where, the hard part is you guys all live in different parts of the city. So, the expectation is to be somewhat objective, understanding that, yeah, you might be supportive of, maybe it makes sense to raise the speed limit on 8th East, and none of you live on 8th East. Then suddenly it's going to be, well, I think Marlon lives on 12th South or close to it. It'd say, well, let's raise the speed limit on 12th South, and you may not. But even though so it's going to be a interesting discussion, because everyone is going to be affected somehow, and that's why we're here, to go ahead and vet it out. And that's what the city council kind of expects, is that this type of a process will go essentially have some of that discussion, instead of them bringing it to the council and then having a big public meeting where Jeff is there till 1 or 2 in the morning hearing the same thing over and over again. So that's what we're here to make a little bit more efficient, but then not be directly politically involved, and that we can actually look at the data and understand, yes, this makes sense. Understanding there's going to be a few folks upset, but I mean, it's better for the greater good. So, yeah, so we have the potential to have a lot of fun.
Okay. Is there anything else on our agenda today?
No, that is it. Unless you guys have any other questions, it always seems like there's other questions that are asked that are about things that we can do the best we can to answer.
I just want to say thank you to everyone that's serving on this commission, and thank you, Cheryl, for getting that link sent out so quickly. That was super fast. And I've actually got another meeting that I need to step into, so I'm gonna, unless there's anything else you need me for, I'm gonna sign off and be on my way.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Jeff.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys,
Jeff.
for all you do.
Yeah.
See y'all soon.
See ya.
Congratulations, Marlon.
Okay.
So can I make a motion that we adjourn then?
You can. Do we have a second for the motion to adjourn? Becky seconds. Anybody opposed?
I oppose. No, just kidding. I definitely do not. I'm just joking.
Keep that up, Jeff, and we're going to make you a voluntold on something. No,
I
okay, so-
heard the motion.
okay. With no objections, thank you for your time today, and we'll go ahead and adjourn and look forward to next month.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
See ya.
you.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you for a great meeting, guys.
Yep.
See ya.